Here we go. Next up, we have the session focusing on the role of the SMMEs in the just transition. And we'll have Rest Kanju, who is the Executive Director and Head of Operations for Indalo Inclusive. And the session will focus on the work of Indalo and its partnership with Just SA, illustrating the success stories, the lessons learned in supporting SMMEs in their role within the Just Transition framework. Thank you, Rest.
I think I was okay all along, but when they called my name, I started freaking out. I freak out also because I just see the slides are skewed. You'll forgive us. Thank you so much. My name is Rest Kanju. I think my name has been mentioned. I don't need to say it again. I don't know why I said it, but I did. I'm also worried about the time. I don't know how much time I'm going to take, but I think as a South African thing, all protocols observed, but I think I want to observe more the entrepreneurs that are here today. I wish they could stand, and I'm sure you'll get to know them a little bit later. And I'm so excited that they're all here. Please raise your hands and stand and clap hands for yourselves, the entrepreneurs that are here. This. Thank you. I started with them because I think, part of my presentation, if there's anything at all that we've got to take out of it, is that the work that we do collectively, and I think Joanne and many other speakers articulated it well, and I think also is echoed by the commitment of our government, South Africa, and all the stakeholders involved, that this work is about the people. It's about our people. And I like the description that Joanne stated, that it's about those people who are selling what we call magwenyas outside the coal power fire stations, outside the mines, in the taxi ranks, that feed into that entire value chain. So the work is about them. But I also do think that we need to recognize that the transition, it's a process. And I think we must acknowledge that it will take a very, very, very long time. One of the realizations or maybe shocks that we experienced recently with CES2 in the Netherlands was to learn that a municipality, one of the municipalities there that transitioned from coal as well, with lessons that they took from South Africa many years ago, when they industrialized that particular municipality called Haarlem. It took them over 70 years to get to where they are. So we talk about 12 years of this journey so far in South Africa. We probably have at least another 68 years or 58 years to go before we can get to achieve something. I think within that context, it's also important for us to recognize that the journey of creating alternative value chains, the journey of supporting SMMEs, it's going to be very long. It's got to be patient. And this is something that we also have to teach our communities. A few years ago, as Indalo Inclusive, supported by GIZ and through a program called SPIPA, we embarked on a learning curve. It was a pure, simple learning curve to try and understand what exactly do we mean by something called the Just Energy Transition Entrepreneurship. The work that we do at Indalo, we are focused on working at the interface of green and social, or green and inclusive economies. And we commit ourselves to supporting entrepreneurs that sometimes are at an early stage and too early that they only have concepts. And many times, a lot of us are very scared to actually venture into those spaces, because the reality of those spaces is simply that it's very risky. Nobody wants to invest in those spaces. We want to wait for entrepreneurs to grow to a particular level, and that's when we start committing resources. But if you don't build this entrepreneurial activity from ideas you then never can get a pipeline that you want to fund. So that's the work that we do. And if someone can go to the next slide for me, I don't know. Do I? Oh, okay. Oh, cool. Nice. Shamila, I want this at Indalo. So we began that process with a number of partners, and because the resources that we have most of the times have quite streamlined and very, very lean, we have an opportunity and we have an advantage of actually working with a number of partners. And in this case, we began to want to define what exactly is an indicator for a just transition enterprise. And we looked, we engaged with the ILO, for example, who are actually, quite a very strong knowledge body around the issues of a just transition globally. And we began to identify that one of the things that is quite critical in defining a just enterprise support program would be to see issues of upskilling, reskilling, social dialogue, and absorption of people who are actually otherwise retrenched or maybe about to lose jobs within those value chains. But we also worked with the IDC to try and understand from the context of a study which they've done a couple of years ago that looked at ghost mining towns. We began to want to understand what are some of the challenging and issues that are beginning to emerge in South Africa, and how do we begin to intervene in that within those spaces. So the IJTEP program at that time, what we did around 2020, had a number of initiatives that we supported, some of which I think you'll get an opportunity to see in the next couple of days. We focused on working with about 10 enterprises, and we created a number of jobs within those spaces. One of the most exciting things that we came up with was to actually support enterprises indeed that were at the idea stage. And today we've seen them grow exponentially. We then came up with the recent project that Tadema Bena mentioned today, called the IJTEP Upscale, which strategically seeks to respond to a policy or a set of policy documents that the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment, together with TIPS, have put together, called the Sector Jobs Resilience Plans. The issue is, if you then sit at the policy level, identify all of those policy challenges, policy imperatives, and policy guidelines, how do you then translate that to a local community and to a local level? So the conceptualization of the IJTEP upscale really then wanted to say, if we've identified that in about 4 value chains, coal, transport, tourism, agriculture, and the likes, or transportation, for example, how do we respond, from a sector job resilience point of view? How do we respond at the local level? The best thing that we could come up with as Indalo, together with GIZ and DFFE, is to say, let's create a cohort of entrepreneurs that literally have indicators, characteristics of reskilling, upskilling. South Africa has a beautiful, education landscape, or what we call the SETAs, sector. What is the SETAs again? Sector education training, authorities. That basically looked at the different skills gaps within the country and say, how do we respond to that? We can be able to run programs that are accredited, that fits within the national skills imperatives, and be able to infuse them within a business development support program. So the program that we do in Mpumalanga, in those 4 municipalities of Emalahleni, Gamenbeki, Steve Chwete, and Msugalikwa, literally seeks to identify enterprises and equip them with skills on how to run a business using an accredited program such as the New Venture Creation, that we then make sure that these entrepreneurs are equipped with, so that even if you don't eventually run your business yourself, you would have a qualification that can take you to an alternative job market, or could hopefully help you run your own business because you would have acquired those skills. But most importantly, we then need to provide technical support for running a proper entrepreneur or enterprise, as well as financial support. So we are going to be giving grants to these enterprises, and they will help them, they will incubate them and help them grow to a point where they come up with a proof of concept. So about 8 enterprises, as Dadima Bena has said, have been identified, and the demographics and typology is right there on your screen. Quite interestingly, we have more female-led enterprises, and we're excited by that. 9 of them are actually youth. We're excited by that. And we've got one person who's living with a disability. And the sectors that we work in are water, energy, and agriculture. It's quite interesting that there is a lot of ideas that we've identified on the ground. And of course, they're at different stages. Some of them have begun to implement certain pilots and certain activities within their businesses, but some of them haven't. But we're prepared to actually go into that space. And you could ask me a question, why are you so bold to actually want to invest even the smallest of resources into ideas? It's because the issue is in the selection. These guys that you would see today, the guys that you will actually interact with today, have gone through an extremely robust process of selection, sometimes very painful. And those that are resilient, those that you see, and those that are going to be getting the grants have actually gone through this very rigorous test. Zetu looks at me and is laughing today because he now realizes that the questions that we're asking had nothing to do with much except to want to select the best, enterprises and want to get the best out of them. So that's what we have done. And it's exciting that some of them have actually invested their own resources in the past few years, some of them in the past few months, to start something. One of the things that I need to applaud the Indalo team, Murendeni, Shamila, and the DFFE and the GIZ colleagues, Sestudu included, was the fact that they've actually done two things. One is to facilitate social dialogue events within all those municipalities to actually understand and engage with communities, to begin to understand what the real issues on the ground are, so that the kind of enterprise that we identify respond to those needs on the ground. And what we did also within that space was to recognize that these entrepreneurs may not actually even understand what we mean by just energy transition entrepreneurship program. So what we did, we brought enterprises that are far more advanced, enterprises that have been successful over the years, to kind of come and share their stories. And what we began to see within that space is what we call replication of ideas, adoption and adoption of ideas that are otherwise successful elsewhere and for implementation with those local communities. And that for me becomes very, very, very exciting. And we look forward to seeing the results of that. Okay, so the different partnerships that exist. Of course, GIZ as a technical partner, but also most importantly as a funding partner. And we do appreciate that, because that is quite important. We wouldn't be doing this work without that. The provincial department of agriculture, rural development, and land affairs, Darglia. I think I've mixed up the words. Says Tutu and your team. It's very exciting to work with people that have an absolute commitment to the well-being of our communities, and we get excited by that. The DFFE, just to mention, to provide that policy guidance and ensuring that we really are going to test policy at the ground level and actually implement policy at the ground level, and of course Indalo. I think let me stop there. 2 minutes or just before my allocated time, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Rest. Next, we're going to call up on Mr. Sibusiso, Dr. Sibusiso Nxumalo of the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment, and he will make an announcement on the selected SMMEs.
Okay. Good morning, colleagues. All protocols observed. The Department of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment in partnership with the government of Germany, the Provincial Department of Agriculture, Rural Development, Land and Environmental Affairs in Mpumalanga Province, and Indalo Inclusive undertook the piloting of the sector job resilience plans as part in support of the just transition. Under this initiative, more than 130 grant applicants were received across Mpumalanga Province, and then 61 enterprises underwent selection after a thorough screening process. From the 61, a further scoring process was executed, and then only 16 enterprises were nominated to participate in the Indalo Veta as well as new venture training program. And then throughout that process, the DFFE, in partnership with the stakeholders, also undertook due diligence site visits, and we visited about 27 enterprises. It is an honor and privilege to be part of this historical event on the International Forum for Coal Regions in Transition, and to present the certificates of attendance to the 16 enterprises that fully participated in the Indalo Veta and New Venture Training Program as part of the sector job resilience plans. I will now call upon the 16 enterprises, and we will then award them their certificates for participating in our program. Okay, the first enterprise that I would like to call is Bustani Trading Enterprise. Okay. Okay. Yeah, we have a bit of a challenge. Our certificates are not in order. I'd like to call Iliso Elibanzi, Pty Ltd. Segusile Scrap Metals and Waste Recycling. Inos Hygiene, Pty Ltd. Trust and Obey Agricultural Primary Cooperative. Delos Logistics. Mo Aqua Water Station. Joy Steel Works. Justice Flames. Royal Place Holdings. Work Forward. And then VES Technology. New Oil Solutions. CD Chile Projects. Utala Ecotourism. Did I leave anyone out? No, I think everyone is here. So from the 16 enterprises in our midst today, only 8 will receive a grant award at an event scheduled on Friday, the 18th of October, as part of this International Forum on Co-Regions in Transition, where the Honorable MEC of Darlia will officially hand over grant awards in Mbombela, Mpumalanga province. I thank you, colleagues. Oh, I now wish to invite Datesemo Mabena to partake us in taking a picture with our enterprises. I also wish to invite Austutu. Yeah. Yeah. Also wish to invite Mr. Kanju, if you can step in as well. Our counterparts, they are all here. PMU and Ruan, thanks. Okay, I've been informed that our enterprises will also be pitching in the next session between 1 and 4 in the IJTEP session between 1 and 4, which will be held somewhere within the proximity. I thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nxumalo, and thank you to all our enterprises and the partners who has made this possible. Let's just give a South African celebration. And Dudu, I'm looking at you to lead us in, to show our visitors how we celebrate achievement in South Africa. Well done. That concludes our first session. We'll take a break. And actually, our speakers have done so well that we can probably take an extended break, and maybe you want to get to know the enterprises and some of the newer participants who's joined us. So can we be back at 11? And then we'll have our panel discussion on the SMME finance and support structures in South Africa. And that will be facilitated by my colleague, Mawa Miss. We'll call you back at 11.